Have you ever felt something strange inside you? A feeling that does not belong to this world? As if your soul is trying to tell you something, even when everything seems normal on the outside? Maybe you have experienced a silent symptom, almost. Invisible to others, but very strong for those who feel it. And here is the truth. This symptom does not appear for nothing. It only appears in those who carry a deep calling, a lofty mission, a rare origin. Many ignore it, many doubt it. But the most powerful recognize it. If you have it, the universe is trying to wake you up, and your soul is screaming to wake up. The feeling of not belonging. From a very young age, something inside you seemed to be going against the grain. While the world was spinning fast, your soul seemed slower, more attentive, more silent. What fascinated others didn't move you. The banal conversations didn't fulfill you. The parties, the noise, the excesses, all of this seemed to drain your energy instead of recharging it. You smiled, but you felt like your true self was always a little distant, as if you lived on another plane, observing everything from the outside. This feeling of constant estrangement was his first symptom, a subtle sign that his origins were not ordinary. Because those who came with an awakened soul carry this restlessness since the first years of life. There is no logical explanation, and that is why so many try to hide or suffocate this feeling. But it insists on returning, like a secret knocking that echoes inside, reminding you that you were never meant to fit in. For a long time, you may have blamed yourself for not feeling like you belonged. You may have tried to fit in with your surroundings, forced connections, and feigned enthusiasm. But the more you tried to fit in, the more you lost yourself. Until, at some point, something inside you got tired, and it was in this tiredness that a new awareness was born. The understanding that the problem was never you. The problem was trying to be less so that you could fit into places that didn't know how to welcome you. This feeling, which was once a burden, begins to transform into strength. You understand that your lack of belonging is actually a reminder that your soul carries a greater purpose. You did not come to repeat patterns. You came to break them, and to do so, you had to walk alone. You had to observe the world from a distance. You had to live in the silence of difference to awaken within yourself the courage to be whole, even when that meant losing everything around you. Those who feel this are not broken. They are in formation. They are in transition between the old and the new. They are being called, even if in a confusing and painful way, to assume their truth. And those who answer this call, even while bleeding, are the ones who later light the path for thousands. Because only those who know the pain of not belonging are capable of creating spaces where others, equally lost, can finally find themselves. A melancholy without reason. There is a sadness that has no name, no cause, no date to pass. It appears when everything seems to be in order, when you have what you need, when nothing is missing. And yet, there is an emptiness. It is a longing that cannot be explained, a light weight on your chest, as if you were crying for something you never experienced, but that your soul never forgot. This silent melancholy is one of the deepest symptoms of awakening, and it does not visit ordinary hearts. This sadness is not a weakness, and much less a sign that something is wrong. On the contrary, it reveals that there is something extremely right in you, that your soul is in touch with dimensions that your mind cannot yet comprehend. What you feel is the vibration of a place that belongs to you, but that is not here. It is the echo of a mission that has not yet been accomplished, but that calls you strongly every day. And the more you try to ignore it, the more it presses on you. Instead of trying to escape this feeling, the chosen ones learn to embrace it. Because they understand that this sadness carries messages. It invites you to retreat, to silence, to dive inward. When the world asks you to hurry, melancholy asks for a pause. And it is in this pause that the soul reveals what the mind has never been able to explain. You begin to remember who you really are, not through childhood memories, but through the fragments of eternity that live in your chest. This melancholic state is also a sign of purification. It's as if your soul needs to mourn the old to make room for the new. And in this process, you become more sensitive, more intuitive, more empathetic. You begin to feel the pain of others as if it were your own. You begin to see beyond words. You begin to love more deeply, because sadness didn't harden you, it polished you. If this melancholy accompanies you, don't suffocate it. It is sacred. It is the lament of the soul that knows it has a great mission, but has not yet managed to express it completely. And when you accept this sadness as part of your path, it stops being a burden. It becomes a bridge. It becomes a compass. It becomes part of your gift. The body starts to speak. When the soul awakens, the body feels it before the mind understands. And that's no exaggeration. It's real. Pain that has no explanation. Sudden fatigue even after hours of rest. Palpitations in moments of calm. Goosebumps when entering certain places. A subtle but persistent tingling sensation. The body becomes a messenger, and the signals are almost always ignored by those who still live on autopilot. But you can't ignore them anymore, because something inside you has changed, and the body responds. These manifestations are not illnesses, they are codes. It is the energy of your vibrational field being realigned. What was once dormant begins to activate, and this process is not easy or gentle. It is like shedding your skin. The old must come off. It must make room for the new to flow. It is exhausting, yes, but at the same time it is deeply necessary, because only those who have purged the old in flesh and blood can sustain the new with integrity. You start to notice that when you enter certain places, your head hurts. That when you get close to certain people, your chest tightens. That when you hear certain words, your stomach rumbles. This is not exaggerated sensitivity. This is expanded perception. It is your physical intuition activated. And the most powerful chosen ones feel this intensely precisely because their bodies are portals. And everything that is a portal needs to be preserved. Awakening requires you to take care of yourself like never before. Your body no longer accepts any food, any environment, any contact. It refuses to remain numb. And it is at this moment that you begin to change your routine almost naturally. Sleep demands better quality. Water seems to have a different taste. Silence becomes a medicine. It is as if your entire body begins to collaborate with your spirit. The truth is that your body feels what your soul already knows. And no matter how much they try to convince you that this is an exaggeration or weakness, the symptoms do not lie. Only the strongest chosen ones have the courage to listen to these signs and allow the transformation to begin from the inside out. Because the body speaks, and the awakened ones listen. Dreams start to look different. You close your eyes at night, but you feel like you're not just sleeping. You're traveling. You're accessing something that wakefulness doesn't allow. And little by little, your dreams take on another dimension. They're no longer just confusing images. They're messages. They're codes. They're visits. It's as if reality expands while you rest, and you start to wake up with the feeling of having lived another life, sometimes more real than your everyday life. Dreams become intense, vivid, symbolic. You start to see places you've never visited but that you feel you know. Unknown faces that look at you with familiarity. Entire cities made of light. Symbols that repeat themselves. Animals that appear as guides. And the most impressive thing, deep feelings that stay with you even after you wake up. As if you had learned something there, even without understanding what. These dreams are not mere creations of the unconscious. They are manifestations of the soul, which communicates without barriers when the mind is at rest. And the most chosen, the most sensitive access these realities frequently, because they are ready to receive instructions, revelations, directions. What happens in these dreams is not random. It is a training, a calling, a reunion. Often, after these dreams, you wake up exhausted, as if you had done a lot of hard work even without getting out of bed. And in fact, you did. because your consciousness was working in another dimension. It was learning, cleaning, healing. Sometimes you dream about someone from the past. Other times, you dream about someone you don't even know. But everything has a reason. Everything carries a frequency. And if you learn to pay attention, you will begin to decipher these messages. If your dreams have begun to change, do not dismiss them. Do not treat them as delusions or coincidences. They are the most sacred field of the soul, trying to guide you with firmness and love. Only those who are truly awake go through the night like travelers, and return with signs of a world that few can even imagine. Nature begins to heal you. When the soul begins to awaken, nature ceases to be just a beautiful setting. It becomes a temple. The sound of the wind seems to speak to you. The sea seems to whisper answers. The scent of the trees brings effortless peace. And the sky becomes a reminder of the infinity that dwells within you. What was once just being in nature now becomes coming home. Natural spaces become the only place where your energy truly rests, recharges, and expands. You begin to realize that, in the midst of nature, you don't need to pretend anything. It doesn't demand that you explain what you feel. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't demand anything from you. It doesn't compare you. Nature accepts you exactly as you are, and that for sensitive souls is a rare healing. Walking barefoot, diving in natural waters, watching the movement of a leaf. All of this becomes therapeutic. The earth communicates with those who are awake, and when the body touches the ground, something invisible aligns. This call of nature arises spontaneously. It is as if suddenly the concrete suffocates you, the noise assaults you, the agitation takes you away from yourself, and the simple contact with the sun, with the greenery, or with the rain restores your balance. It is a return to the essential, a reunion with the silence that speaks, with the invisible that heals, with the simplicity that reveals everything. You begin to seek refuge in what is pure, and what is pure begins to respond to you. The most powerful chosen ones feel the need to isolate themselves in nature because they need to empty themselves of excess noise. The sensitivity they carry is not a weakness, it is an antenna. And when everything is too much, the natural world is the only one that can rebalance the internal chaos. That is where the deepest insights come. That is where the soul whispers the answers that the mind so seeks. If you have been feeling this call of nature, answer it. This is not a fad. It is not a coincidence, nor a phase. It is a realignment with your purest essence. Those who came with elevated missions carry within themselves the memory of the sacred, and nature is the living bridge between this world and the other. The more you connect with it, the more you connect with who you really are. Rejection comes without warning. As your consciousness rises, people start to drift away. For no clear reason, no explanation. Relationships grow cold. Old friendships fall apart. Invitations disappear. You look around and suddenly realize you're alone. It hurts, especially when you don't understand why. But deep down, your soul already knew. Awakening pushes away everything that is no longer vibrating at your frequency, and what doesn't accompany you needs to go. Rejection, although cruel at first glance, is a blessing in disguise. It clears the ground. It removes what is holding us back. It breaks bonds that only existed out of attachment, habit, or fear of being alone. When the soul decides to evolve, it no longer negotiates with stagnation. And so the universe begins to uproot, often abruptly, everything that is no longer aligned with its new path. This is frightening, but it also liberates. You begin to realize that, after rejection, a new space opens up within you. An uncomfortable emptiness, yes, but one that is also fertile. It is in this emptiness that the new enters. It is in this silence that your strength begins to emerge. The most powerful chosen ones go through these painful cuts precisely because they need to walk lightly. They need to walk with less weight. They need to be available for what is to come. and no longer stuck in what has already gone. Rejection also forces you to look at yourself. It forces you to accept yourself, to validate yourself, to understand that your worth does not depend on the acceptance of others. This is one of the greatest leaps of consciousness that anyone can take, because when you stop measuring yourself by the eyes of others, you begin to truly see yourself. And this is one of the highest points of awakening, when self-love stops being a speech and becomes a lived truth. If you have been experiencing repeated rejections in various areas of your life, know that this is not bad luck. It is spiritual selection. It is the universe saying bluntly, you are growing, and those who don't grow with you don't stay. The most powerful know this. They learn to transform the pain of exclusion into fuel for rebirth, because they know that where there is a cut, light will soon be born. Loneliness becomes a sacred place. What was once feared now becomes necessary. Loneliness, which was once pain, becomes shelter. You begin to choose to be alone, not out of sadness, but out of necessity. It is there, far from the voices, distractions, and external demands, that your soul can breathe in peace. Solitude becomes a sacred refuge, a space where you listen to yourself, rebuild yourself, and heal yourself. And only those who are awakened understand this kind of silence, because they know that it is in it that truth resides. The most powerful among the chosen ones understand early on that they cannot stay connected to their own essence if they are constantly surrounded by noise. This awareness arises naturally. You begin to say no to encounters, to empty conversations, to relationships that only distract you from yourself. And in this retreat, you lose nothing. On the contrary, you recover everything that was lost by trying to be for others. Solitude shows you who you are when no one is watching you. And this is one of the hardest mirrors to look at, but also the most necessary, because it is there that you confront your shadows, but also recognize your lights. It is there that you let go of your masks, that you forgive yourself, accept yourself, and become stronger. Real growth happens when you see yourself whole, without distractions, without an audience, without characters. And the more you get used to your own presence, the less you will be desperate for attention, validation, or forced company. You will begin to be more selective about what enters your life, not out of pride, but out of self-awareness. Because those who learn to nourish themselves in silence will no longer accept crumbs in the noise. This is one of the strongest marks of those who awaken, the ability to transform isolation into freedom. If you have been feeling like stepping away, being silent, disappearing for a while, listen to this call. It is not an escape. It is a cleansing. It is preparation. The universe removes the excess before delivering what is important. And those who know how to be alone, without losing themselves, are the ones who will later be a beacon for many who still live in the darkness of noise. Intuition that nobody understands. You start to know things before they happen. You feel when something is wrong, even if everyone says otherwise. You notice when someone is lying, even without proof. You intuit paths, choices, people, and often you keep quiet, because you have learned that not everyone will understand this gift. Your intuition becomes sharper to the point where it seems magical, but it is just the reflection of a soul in fine tune with the invisible. The most awakened people don't need rational explanations to make decisions. They follow what they feel, and they're almost always right. This scares others. It even scares you sometimes, because it seems impossible to know so much without someone telling you. But the truth is that your soul knows, because it sees beyond. It captures. It hears what the world doesn't say, and this refined perception is one of the greatest proofs that your spirit is fully awake. You can try to ignore this gut feeling, to follow the most logical path, but something inside you will get restless. It will scream. It will show you in some way that you are going against your own compass. And every time you silence this inner voice, the price is high. Anxiety, frustration, a feeling of being out of place. Because your intuition is not optional. It is part of who you are. Over time, you understand that this sensitivity is a sacred instrument, that you can indeed trust it, that you don't need external approval to validate what you feel, because the most powerful among the chosen ones were not made to follow other people's maps. They came to pave the way. And to do so, they need to follow their own frequency, even when it contradicts everything around them. If you feel that you see beyond, hear beyond, know beyond, don't doubt it. This is a gift, a guide, a mission. Your intuition is your radar. It is your direct connection to the source. And the more you honor it, the stronger it becomes. The chosen ones don't wait for permission to believe what they feel. They simply follow. And that's why they shine. Deep detachment from what is material. Little by little, what once seemed indispensable begins to lose its shine. You realize that you no longer feel pleasure in impulse buying, in showing off your achievements, in competing for space or validating your worth through possessions. Vanity no longer seduces you as it once did, and what many still seek so obsessively, status, fame, recognition, no longer resonates within you. Something has changed, and it has changed silently but irreversibly. This detachment is not a rejection of matter. It is freedom from it. You begin to see the world through different eyes. You realize that everything that is bought can be lost, that everything that is visible can be manipulated. And so you turn your attention to what cannot be sold, broken, or stolen: inner peace, truth, authenticity. What was once an achievement now seems like a distraction, and what was once disposable is now sacred. The most powerful chosen ones go through this transformation from the inside out, not out of obligation but out of clarity. They discover that they no longer need to accumulate things to feel whole. Satisfaction is not in what they have, but in who they are. And when they realize this, everything changes. The pace of life slows down, expenses decrease, gratitude increases. You begin to value what is essential, and you realize that the essential was never material. This process can be misinterpreted. Many people around you will think that you have lost your spirits, that you are strange, that you have lost interest in life. But the truth is the opposite. You are finally starting to live for real. You are detoxing from excess. You are learning to be light, simple, real. And on this path, you attract what vibrates at the same frequency. What is true? What is reciprocal? What is subtle? If you have been feeling this natural withdrawal from all that is excessive, artificial, and empty, celebrate. This is not a loss. It is an ascension. The chosen ones who carry true light have nothing to prove. They live in silence, and in that silence, they find riches that the world has not yet learned to value. Synchronicities that become impossible to ignore. You start to see patterns repeating themselves, the same time on the clock. Specific numbers appearing multiple times in the same day. Words that appear in different conversations. Signs that seem random, but repeat themselves too often to be coincidence. At first you doubt it, but after a certain point you realize the universe is trying to tell you something. And when you start listening, everything falls into place. These synchronicities are answers. They are confirmations. They are subtle nudges given by a force that guides you without imposing itself. When you are on the right path, reality begins to conspire in your favor. Things flow, the right people appear. Ideas arise at the exact moment. It is as if the world outside responds to what is happening inside you. And this, for those with spiritual sensitivity, is impossible to ignore. The most powerful chosen ones live surrounded by these signs because their souls are already in dialogue with the invisible. They see where others only look, they grasp where others only hear, and they feel where others only analyze. Therefore, they are guided with greater precision. The path is revealed in pieces, like a puzzle assembled little by invisible hands. These signs also serve as emotional anchors. In moments of doubt, fear, or despair, they appear. a number, a song, a name, an image, something that to others would be insignificant, but to you comes as a direct answer. A reminder that you are not alone, that there is a greater purpose at work behind the scenes, that everything is happening as it should. If you have been experiencing these synchronicities with increasing frequency, do not doubt your perception. This is pure sensitivity. It is the language of the universe being deciphered by an awakened soul. The most powerful recognize these messages with their hearts and continue confidently, even when reason still hesitates. The perception of time begins to change. You start to feel like time is no longer the same. Some days fly by without explanation. You barely start something and the day is already over. At other times, time seems to stop. Minutes drag on, hours stand still. You look at the clock and you're sure that something is out of the ordinary. This phenomenon happens because your consciousness is expanding. And when this happens, the way you perceive time is no longer linear. The awakened do not live only in the chronological now, they live in layers. While your feet walk on earth, your mind and soul are already on other frequencies. Time ceases to be a track and becomes a mirror. At times, it reflects the past. At others, it anticipates the future. And at times, it dissolves completely, plunging you into a state of presence so deep that time disappears. This change can confuse you. You start to lose track of time. You get distracted easily. You forget appointments. You have difficulty fitting into rigid routines. But this is not a lack of discipline. It is a transition in consciousness. The world out there demands a clock, but your soul is learning to live at its own pace, at its own rhythm, more intuitive, more connected to the flow of existence. The most powerful chosen ones are deeply affected by this temporal distortion because they live between two worlds. They need to function here, but they no longer belong entirely here. They feel the call of the invisible, of the subtle dimensions, and this directly impacts the way they relate to time. So don't be surprised if you start to desire a lighter, slower lifestyle, more connected to the present. If time has been behaving strangely in your life, speeding up or slowing down without warning, accept this as yet another symptom of your awakening. You are crossing an invisible bridge. And the more you allow yourself to walk in this new rhythm, the more you will understand that time is just a necessary illusion. But it was never your limit, a deep calling that doesn't leave you in peace, even though, when everything seems to be fine, there is a nagging feeling deep down, a call that doesn't scream but pulsates, that doesn't press but insists, an inner voice that reminds you, every day, that there is something else. And you feel it. You know. But you can't explain it. You don't know where you are or how to get there. You just feel that you need to seek it. You need to understand it. You need to follow it. This calling is not imagination. It is the clearest sign that you are ready to fulfill something that is only yours. This spiritual uneasiness is common among the awakened. No matter how stable your life is, how many achievements you have accumulated, something inside you remains restless. It is as if your soul remembers an ancient mission and is trying to wake you up to it. You feel like you have something to give to the world, something to express, to teach, to heal, to transform. Even without knowing exactly what it is, you feel like you are here for more than just existing. And the more you try to ignore this call, the more life pushes you. Situations begin to repeat themselves. People cross your path bringing messages. Obstacles arise to force you to rethink everything. It is not punishment. It is realignment. The awakened soul demands congruence. It no longer tolerates a half-hearted life. And when you begin to listen carefully, the path reveals itself step by step, even if shrouded in fog. The most powerful chosen ones are those who do not run away from this call. Even when they are afraid, even when they are in doubt, they decide to follow. And this decision changes everything, because the universe responds to movement. Clarity comes along the way, not before. You just need to take the first step. Trust what you feel, even without guarantees, because the soul does not need certainties, it needs courage. If you feel like you carry something bigger inside you, something that hasn't yet found a form, name, or direction, embrace it. This call is the sound of your soul remembering who you are, and whoever hears this sound, even in the midst of chaos, is no longer the same. They are ready. They are awake. They are on their way. You are seeing this for one reason. You may think you arrived here by chance, that this video just appeared, but those who are awake know chance does not exist. You were drawn to this message because it carries a mirror, a reflection of something you already feel, already know, already live, even if you haven't been able to name it yet. The simple fact that you are here, absorbing these words, is a clear sign that your soul is ready. And ready souls are rare. You recognize the symptoms because they are yours. They are not theory. They are experience. They are parts of your journey, fragments of your own truth, now gathered before you as a reminder that you were never alone. Everything that seems strange, exaggerated, or invisible to others now makes sense, because you have found language for what is happening inside. And in this recognition, power is born. The power to no longer doubt yourself, to no longer be silent in the face of your own intuition, to no longer try to fit in where your soul suffocates. You are remembering. You are freeing yourself. You are finally embracing who you have always been, but who the world tried to make you forget. This is no small thing. This is sacred. Not everyone gets here. Not everyone understands this vibration. So if you feel your heart beating faster, if something inside you seems to be opening up or revealing itself, know this. This is your calling. Don't ignore it. This video didn't appear by mistake. You were led to it because you are ready for the next level of your consciousness. If this message touched you, write in the comments, "I recognize the signs." This will be your way of declaring to the universe that you accept this calling. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share with those who also need to wake up. The world needs souls like yours, aware, sensitive, and ready. And this journey is just beginning.